Hi, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back. You see, complaining is easy. Anybody can do it. You don't need strength, you don't need vision, you don't need courage to complain. All you need is a mouth and a little bit of frustration. But here's the truth, complaints don't pay bills, they don't build dreams, they don't move mountains. Complaints don't change the situation. Complaints just echo your pain back to you. And after a while, that echo becomes the only thing you hear. You start living inside your complaints instead of fighting your way into solutions. And the longer you stay there, the more powerless you feel, because the very act of complaining robs you of the energy you need to change what you're complaining about. When you sit around telling everybody how unfair life is, how hard it is, how somebody else has it easier, you're building a cage with your own words, a cage of negativity. And the sad part is, that cage doesn't even have a lock. You could step out of it any time you want. But the more you talk about your struggles without acting, the more you start believing that cage is real. That's why nothing changes. That's why people stay stuck for years. They get addicted to their excuses, addicted to the sympathy that complaining brings, addicted to the comfort of blaming instead of the discomfort of building. But here's where winners separate themselves. Winners understand that action, not talk, changes circumstances. They don't deny their struggles, but they refuse to let their struggles define them. Instead of saying it's too hard, they ask, how can I make it happen? Instead of saying, I can't catch a break, they say, I'll create one. Instead of saying, life isn't fair, they whisper, I'm built for this. I'm built for this. That decision to act instead of complain is the difference between someone who stays down and someone who rises. Think about it. Every second you spend complaining could have been a second you spent moving. You say you don't have enough money? Then what skill are you learning that could earn you more? You say you don't have enough time? Then what distractions are you willing to cut off to create time? You say nobody supports you? Then what are you doing to stand strong on your own until the right people show up? Life doesn't hand you solutions on a silver platter. Life waits to see who's bold enough to reach for them. Complaining makes you wait. Action makes you move. And only those who move ever taste victory. See, you can either let your complaints justify your situation, or you can let your determination change it. You can't do both. You can't be a complainer and a winner at the same time. Those two identities don't live in the same house. Winners get frustrated too, don't get it twisted. They feel pain, they cry, they fall short, they bleed, but they don't live in that pain. They don't repeat it like a broken record. They transform that energy into action. They grind, they push, they pray, they sacrifice, they get back up again, and that's why they rise above. The real danger of complaining is that it tricks you into thinking you're doing something. It feels like release, like you're letting it out. But when the complaining stops, the problem is still there, waiting for you. Only now you've wasted time, energy, and focus that could have gone into solving it. You've dulled your own spirit. You've rehearsed your weakness instead of practicing your strength. And that rehearsal becomes habit. Pretty soon, you're not just someone who complains. You're someone who lives as a complainer. And life will always reflect the role you choose to play. But what happens when you cut the complaints and start moving? What happens when you face the same problem, but with a new attitude? Suddenly you find opportunities that weren't visible before, because they were always there, hidden under the fog of your own negativity. Complaining blinds you. Action clears your vision. Complaining locks doors. Action finds keys. Complaining keeps you in bed. Action gets you up in the morning with purpose. You've got to understand, nobody is coming to rescue you because of your complaints. The world doesn't owe you a reward for your suffering, but it will respect your resilience. So, if it will respond to your persistence. Life bows down to those who stand tall in the storm, not to those who cry about the rain. Complaining will have you soaking wet and cold. Action will have you building an umbrella, learning how to dance in the rain, and maybe one day teaching others how to survive the storm. Every success story you admire is built on somebody who refused to complain their way through. They might have started broken, doubted, or dismissed, but they acted anyway. They used what little they had. They knocked on doors that slammed in their faces. They kept walking when the road was empty. And they won not because life was easy, but because they stopped complaining and started winning. So when you feel that urge to sit and talk about what's wrong, pause for a moment and ask yourself, what action can I take right now to make this better? Maybe it's a small step. Maybe it feels insignificant, but even the smallest action moves you forward, and forward is where victory lives. Complaints keep you rooted in the past. Action plants you in the future. That's the choice. That's the challenge. That's the truth. Discipline will take you places excuses can't even buy a ticket to. Excuses sound good in the moment. They feel comforting. They let you off the hook, but they cost you everything in the long run. Excuses are like a rocking chair. They give you something to do, but they don't move you anywhere. You sit in it, you rock back and forth, you feel like you're doing something, but you're stuck in the same spot. Discipline, on the other hand, is movement. Discipline is progress. Discipline is the bridge between where you are and where you dream to be. You say you want success, but are you willing to wake up before the sun rises? You say you want financial freedom, but are you willing to save when it's easier to spend? You say you want health, but do you have the strength to eat clean when everybody else is eating junk? You say you want greatness, but are you consistent when no one is clapping for you? That's the test. That's where winners are separated from complainers. Because excuses give you a reason to stay the same, but discipline gives you the power to change. Discipline doesn't feel good in the moment. It's not supposed to. It stretches you. It demands sacrifice. It tells you no when your feelings are screaming yes. It drags you out of comfort and places you in discomfort. But that discomfort is where growth happens. Excuses will let you stay comfortable, and that's why you'll stay average. Discipline will make you uncomfortable, and that's why it will make you great. Look at anybody you admire, anybody you call a success story, and you'll find discipline all over their life. Athletes don't become champions because they show up only on game day. They're champions because of the hours they put in when no one was watching. Leaders don't inspire people by chance. They sharpen their skills, they train their minds, they discipline their habits. You think actors, musicians, inventors, business leaders, people who changed history got there because of excuses? No, they got there because discipline took them where talent and excuses could never go. See, excuses talk about what could have been. Discipline shows you what will be. Excuses will tell you, I would have done it if I had more time. Discipline says, I'm going to make time. Excuses say, I don't feel like it today. Discipline says, I'll do it anyway. Excuses focus on circumstances. Discipline creates new ones. That's the difference. That's the power. And here's the thing. Discipline is a decision, not a gift. You don't wake up with it. You don't stumble upon it. You don't wait for it to show up. You choose it every single day. You build it like a muscle. The first time you say no to an excuse, it's hard. The second time, it's still hard. But the more you choose discipline, the stronger it gets. Before long, it becomes who you are. You no longer chase motivation because discipline has become your default setting. You don't need the perfect environment or perfect timing because you've trained yourself to move regardless of how you feel. Excuses are fueled by emotions. Discipline is fueled by commitment. Your emotions will lie to you. They'll tell you to rest when it's time to push. They'll tell you to quit when you're just one step away from the breakthrough. They'll tell you you're not ready, you're not capable, you're not enough. But discipline doesn't negotiate with emotions. Discipline says, oh, we're going forward anyway. That's how mountains get climbed. That's how dreams get built. That's how victories are won. The reality is everybody wants the reward, but few want the responsibility. Excuses keep you comfortable with wanting. Discipline forces you to do the work that gets you having. Excuses will applaud you for trying. Discipline will demand that you finish. Excuses will keep you talking about it. Discipline will make sure you're about it. If you ever want to stop being average, if you ever want to stop living beneath your potential, you've got to put excuses to death and replace them with discipline. No more I'll do it tomorrow. No more I wasn't feeling it. No more they didn't help me. The world is not waiting on your excuse. The world is waiting on your discipline because when discipline shows up, doors open, opportunities multiply, people take notice, life shifts. And all of a sudden, you're not just talking about winning, you're actually winning. Your mindset is everything. It's not just a part of the game, it is the game. The way you think determines the way you move, and the way you move determines where you end up. If your mind is locked in negativity, doubt, and fear, then every step you take will be heavy. Every opportunity will look like a trap. Every setback will feel like the end. But if your mind is locked in vision, faith, and determination, then every step you take has power. Every obstacle becomes a lesson. Every failure becomes fuel. It all starts in the mind. See, life doesn't stop throwing challenges at you. The difference between the one who falls and the one who rises is never the size of the challenge, it's the size of the mindset. You can take two people, put them in the same situation, give them the same tools, and one will quit while the other will create a way to win. Why? Because of how they think. One saw limitations, the other saw possibilities. One saw walls, the other saw doors. That's the power of mindset. The problem is too many people are waiting for circumstances to change before they change their thinking. They say, when life gets better, I'll start believing. But that's backwards. Life gets better when you start believing. You don't wait for light to show up before you decide to see. You train your eyes to see light even in the dark. That's what a winning mindset does. It doesn't ignore reality, but it refuses to be chained by it. Your motion in life will always match your mental direction. If you think small, you'll move small. If you think fear, you'll move afraid. If you think doubt, you'll hesitate until the moment is gone. But if you think courage, you'll step even when you're trembling. If you think possibility, you'll find doors no one else noticed. If you think victory, you'll fight until the finish line. That's why protecting your mind is more important than protecting your possessions. You can lose money, you can lose status, you can lose friends, but if you keep the right mindset, you can rebuild it all. Look around at the people who inspire you. Their lives didn't go perfectly. They faced storms, betrayals, failures, heartbreaks, but their mindset refused to let them stay down. When other people were saying, it's over, they were saying, not yet. When others saw an end, they saw a new beginning. That shift in thinking changed their motion, and that motion carried them to success. What you feed your mind will show up in your life. If you constantly feed yourself negativity, complaining, gossip, and fear, don't be surprised when your life reflects that chaos. If all you do is scroll and compare yourself to others, don't be surprised when you feel stuck. But if you feed your mind with knowledge, with faith, with discipline, with vision, your life will start moving in that direction. Your mind is like soil. Whatever seeds you plant in it will grow. Excuses grow weeds. Discipline grows fruit. Fear grows chains. Faith grows wings. That's why you've got to be intentional. You can't let anybody just dump their trash into your head. You can't let the world's negativity dictate your future. You've got to guard your thoughts like treasure because they are. One negative thought, if you let it live long enough, will create doubt. Doubt creates hesitation, creates missed opportunities. Missed opportunities create regret, and regret will chain you to the past. But one positive thought, if you nurture it, will create hope. Hope creates action. Action creates results, and results create momentum. That's the kind of chain you want to build. It's easy to blame the outside world for how your life is moving, but most of the battle is inside your head. If you can win the battle in your mind, you can win the battle in your life. If you can train yourself to think bigger, push harder, believe deeper, then life has no choice but to respond. That's why some people rise in the same situations where others drown. They decided in their mind they wouldn't sink. And once that decision is made, everything else falls in line. So ask yourself, what story are you telling yourself every day? Are you telling yourself you're too late, too old, too broken, too unlucky? Or are you telling yourself you're strong, capable, destined, and prepared? Because whichever story you choose, your life will start to follow it. You can't think like a loser and live like a winner. You can't think in chains and walk in freedom. Your mindset builds your motion. Your motion builds your destiny. At the end of the day, you don't control everything that happens to you, but you always control how you think about it. And how you think about it will determine what you do about it. The right mindset won't erase the storms, but it will teach you how to sail through them. It won't erase the valleys, but it will show you how to climb out of them. The right mindset won't give you a life without problems. It will give you a life where problems don't stop your motion. That's the difference between staying stuck and stepping into victory. Life will knock you down. That's not a maybe, that's a guarantee. You will face setbacks, disappointments, failures that sting so hard they make you question if you should even keep going. But here's the truth. Winners don't let setbacks bury them. Winners turn setbacks into setups for comebacks. That's the difference between people who stay broken and people who rise stronger. It's not about avoiding the hit. It's about what you do after you've been hit. When life pushes you back, most people start asking, why me? They start complaining, they start doubting, they start shrinking. But the ones who win ask a different question. What is this teaching me? What can I build from this? That's the mindset that separates a victim from a victor. Because every setback holds a seed of wisdom, every failure carries a hidden lesson, every heartbreak has within it the blueprint for growth. Winners know how to find that blueprint and use it to build their comeback. Think about the stories you admire the most. They're never about someone who had it easy. They're about someone who went through hell, who got knocked flat, who lost everything, but refused to stay down. They turned their pain into purpose. They turned their rejection into redirection. They turned their breakdown into a breakthrough. That's why their story inspires you, because they took what was meant to break them and used it to build themselves. See, the setback is not the end of the road. It's a detour. It's a moment of redirection. Sometimes God allows you to be pulled back like an arrow, not to keep you down, but to launch you farther than you thought you could go. But you've got to cooperate with the process. You've got to understand that the pullback is preparation. If you quit in the pullback, you'll never see the power of the release. Failure is a teacher, not a tombstone. The only time failure becomes permanent is when you decide not to get up. Winners look at failure and say, all right, I see what didn't work. Now let's try again, smarter, stronger, better. That's the setup. That's how comebacks are built. The pain becomes fuel. The disappointment becomes motivation. The loss becomes wisdom. Nothing is wasted when you're determined to rise. But here's the key. You can't just sit in the pain and expect the comeback to happen by itself. You have to make a decision. You have to say, this setback will not define me. I will not die here. I will not let this moment become my forever. Because if you're breathing, your story isn't finished. And sometimes the chapters you thought were the worst become the chapters people remember you for. Nobody cares about a perfect story. They care about the one who got up when everything said they should have stayed down. Look at athletes who come back from injuries, artists who come back after being rejected, leaders who rise after being doubted. Their success isn't just about talent. It's about resilience. It's about refusing to let the setback be louder than the comeback. And the reason we call them winners is not because they never fell. It's because they kept getting back up until their comeback was undeniable. Your comeback won't look like anybody else's. It might take longer than you thought. It might cost more than you expect. It might demand everything you've got. But if you refuse to quit, it will come. The world respects a fighter. The world respects someone who doesn't let the setback have the final word. And when that comeback comes, it will silence the critics, it will shock the doubters, and it will remind you why you never gave up. So the next time life knocks you flat, don't see it as the end, see it as the middle, see it as the setup. Because every great story, every great victory, every great destiny has a moment where the hero falls. But the story doesn't stop there, the hero rises. And that rise is what makes the victory so powerful. That rise is what makes the story unforgettable. Don't fear the setback, embrace it, embrace it. Learn from it, use it. Because the very thing that was meant to break you can become the very thing that makes you. And when you come back from that, you won't just win, you'll inspire others to rise too. That's what real victory looks like. Gratitude and complaining cannot live in the same house. Now, one builds, the other destroys. One multiplies what you have, the other shrinks it. Gratitude creates growth, complaining creates stagnation. When you learn to be thankful in every season, even the tough ones, you open the door for more. But when you complain about every season, you slam that door shut. See, gratitude isn't about pretending life is perfect. It's about choosing to see the good even when life feels heavy. It's about saying, I may not be where I want to be, but thank God I'm not where I used to be. That shift in attitude changes everything. Gratitude turns a little into enough. Complaining turns enough into nothing. Gratitude makes you resourceful. Complaining makes you blind. Gratitude sees possibilities. Complaining only sees problems. Too many people don't realize that complaining is like poison. You sip on it daily, and before long, your spirit grows weak. You stop trying. You stop moving. You stop moving. You stop believing because when you complain long enough, your brain starts to believe the lie that nothing will ever change. But gratitude breaks that cycle. Gratitude reminds you that even in the storm, you still have strength. Even in the loss, you still have lessons. Even in the struggle, you still have opportunities. And that reminder gives you the courage to keep pressing forward. When you live in gratitude, your perspective shifts. The same job that someone complains about becomes the job you're thankful for because it's teaching you discipline. The same setback that someone cries about becomes the setback you're grateful for because it's building your character. The same challenge that someone runs from becomes the challenge you thank God for because it's preparing you for the next level. Gratitude doesn't erase pain, but it transforms how you carry it. And the way you carry pain determines whether you break under it or build from it. Think about it. Every blessing you have right now was once something you prayed for. The roof over your head, the food on your table, the opportunities in front of you, the relationships you value. Once upon a time, you were asking for those. Don't let complaining trick you into forgetting that. Because the moment you forget what you already have, you lose sight of how far you've come. And when you lose sight, you lose momentum. Gratitude keeps you moving by reminding you of your progress. The most successful people in the world are not the ones with the least problems, they're the ones with the most gratitude. They've trained themselves to say thank you in the middle of pressure. They've trained themselves to see lessons in every loss. And because of that, their growth never stops. Even when they stumble, gratitude pushes them to stand taller. Even when they fail, gratitude whispers, at least you tried, now try again. That voice keeps them alive, keeps them building, keeps them winning, keeps them winning. But here's the thing, gratitude is a choice, not a feeling. You won't always feel thankful. Some days life will hit you so hard that gratitude will be the last thing on your mind. That's when you need it most. That's when you have to stop and say, I may not like this, but I'm still breathing. I may not understand this, but I'm still standing. I may not have everything, but I still have enough to keep going. When you choose gratitude in the hardest moments, you find strength you didn't even know you had. Complaining will keep you circling the same mountain. Gratitude will help you climb it. Complaining will make you bitter. Gratitude will make you better. Complaining will trap you in the past. Gratitude will pull you into the future. The choice is yours. Every single day you wake up, you're either watering the seeds of gratitude or feeding the weeds of complaining, and your life will grow according to what you nurture. Gratitude doesn't just change your life, it changes the people around you. When you walk into a room with gratitude, you lift the atmosphere, you make people believe again. You show them hope is still alive. But when you walk in with complaining, you drag everybody down. You make the air heavy. You spread defeat instead of courage. That's how powerful your attitude is. It doesn't just affect you, it affects everyone who touches your life. So if you want to grow, if you want to win, start by saying thank you more than you complain. Thank you for the small things. Thank you for the challenges. Thank you for the strength to fight another day. Gratitude doesn't mean you settle. It means you build from what you already have. And when you build from gratitude, you never stop rising. The people around you will either lift you or limit you. They will either push you forward or pull you back. If you want to stop complaining and start winning, you've got to surround yourself with doers, not complainers. Because who you spend your time with shapes who you become. If you sit with people who blame, you'll start blaming. If you sit with people who doubt, you'll start doubting. But if you sit with people who move, who act, who create, who believe, you'll find yourself doing the same. Energy is contagious. Make sure you're catching the right kind. The right kind. Complainers love company. They love to sit in circles and talk about what's wrong, who's wrong, why nothing ever changes. But notice something. Those conversations never solve anything. They never open doors. They never create opportunities. They just drain you. By the time you leave that circle, you're more tired, more bitter, more hopeless than when you walked in. That's not friendship. That's bondage. And you can't win if you're chained to people who don't even want to move. Doers are different. Doers might acknowledge the problem, but they don't live in it. They say, all right, it's tough, but what's next? How do we fix it? How do we move forward? Doers don't waste energy talking about what they can't change. They invest energy into what they can. And when you walk with doers, something happens inside you. Your excuses sound smaller. Your vision feels bigger. Your energy grows stronger. Because when you see people moving, it challenges you to move too. Think about an eagle. An eagle doesn't fly with pigeons. Pigeons stay low, pecking at crumbs, making noise, but never going anywhere. Eagles soar high, focused, silent, powerful. If you want to soar, you can't spend your life in the pigeon coop. You've got to rise, even if it means flying alone for a season. Because flying alone with vision is better than being crowded with people who keep you grounded. Some of you are stuck, not because you don't have potential, but because you're surrounded by the wrong people. Every time you talk about your dream, they laugh. Every time you try to move forward, they remind you of your past. Every time you feel momentum, they whisper doubt, and you keep wondering why you can't seem to break free. It's not you, it's your circle. You're trying to run with anchors tied to your leg. Winners are intentional about who they let close. They choose mentors who push them, friends who encourage them, partners who challenge them. They don't need cheerleaders who only clap when it's easy. They need builders who help when it's hard. And sometimes that means cutting ties. Sometimes that means loving people from a distance, because you can't save everybody and you can't carry dead weight while trying to climb. If you're serious about winning, you've got to be serious about your circle. It doesn't mean you look down on people who complain. It doesn't mean you think you're better. It just means you recognize you can't afford to spend your life in the same place they choose to stay. You've got goals, you've got purpose, you've got destiny, and destiny requires discipline. It requires focus. It requires energy. You can't waste that energy sitting in conversations that go nowhere, around people who aren't going anywhere. Surround yourself with dreamers, but not just dreamers, doers. People who not only talk about what they want, but put in the work to make it real. People who wake up early, who stay late, who fail and try again. People who clap for you when you win and push you when you slack. People who remind you of who you are when you forget. That kind of circle will change your life. That kind of circle will make you believe in yourself again. You don't need a crowd, you need the right crew. One or two doers are worth more than a room full of complainers, because doers will bring solutions where complainers bring excuses. Doers will open doors where complainers close. Doers will speak life where complainers spread doubt. And when you surround yourself with that energy long enough, you start to embody it. Before you know it, you're not just influenced by doers, you've become one. So take a look at your circle. Are they fueling your growth or feeding your complaints? Are they helping you climb or keeping you crawling? If the answer hurts, good. That's your signal. It's time to shift. It's time to separate. It's time to align with people who are going where you're going, not people who are stuck where you've been on the. Because at the end of the day, you can't complain your way into victory, but you can surround yourself with the kind of people who will fight with you, build with you, rise with you. And when you walk with doers, you don't just stop complaining. You start winning. You start winning. Faith and focus are two of the most powerful forces you can carry with you. When you have faith, you believe that even when you can't see the road, there is a way forward. When you have focus, you discipline yourself to stay on that road, no matter how loud the distractions get. Put those two together and you become unstoppable. But when you trade them for fear and frustration, you stall. You stand still. You give power to everything around you instead of the strength within you. Fear will lie to you. It will whisper that you're not good enough, not smart enough, not strong enough. Frustration will tempt you to quit, to throw in the towel before the blessing shows up. And once you let fear and frustration live inside your mind, they drain your energy, cloud your vision, and rob you of your fight. That's why so many people never reach their potential, not because they didn't have talent, but because they let fear talk them out of trying or frustration convince them to stop. But faith says it keep moving, even if you don't see the finish line yet. Focus says keep your eyes on the goal, even when the storm is raging. Faith doesn't deny reality, it just believes that reality can change. Focus doesn't erase the noise, it just trains you not to let the noise control you. Together, they build a shield that fear and frustration can't penetrate. Think about it. When you focus on fear, your steps shrink. You hesitate, you second guess, you delay. By the time you finally move, the opportunity is gone. But when you focus on faith, your steps get stronger. You may not have all the answers, but you take the shot. You may not feel ready, but you start anyway. You may not know how the story will end, but you trust the author. That kind of faith gives you boldness, and that kind of focus gives you direction. Faith is what keeps you standing when everything in life tries to knock you down. Focus is what keeps you working when everything around you screams, give up. Fear will tell you to quit in the middle of the storm. Frustration will say it's not worth it. But faith will remind you, you've come too far to stop now. And focus will remind you you've got a vision bigger than this moment. That's the voice you need to listen to. Distractions are everywhere. People will doubt you. Obstacles will block you. Life will test you. If you're not careful, you'll let frustration pull your eyes off the goal, and you'll let fear convince you the goal isn't even possible. That's why you've got to train your focus like a laser. A laser cuts through steel not because it's powerful in itself, but because it's concentrated. Your mind is the same. If you scatter it across fear, excuses, and distractions, you waste your energy. But if you lock it on faith and the goal, you'll cut through anything in your way. Every person who has ever achieved greatness had a moment where fear knocked at the door and frustration tried to move in. The difference is they didn't let them stay. They chose faith instead. They chose focus instead. They stop being passengers in their own life and start being drivers. And drivers get to choose the destination. People who live in excuses are always waiting for luck, waiting for a break, waiting for someone to notice them. And while they wait, their time slips away. Responsibility doesn't wait. Responsibility builds. It takes whatever is in your hands right now, big or small, and uses it. It multiplies it. It grows it. And before long, that responsibility turns into results. It's easy to admire success from afar. It's harder to live the process behind it. Because the process is messy. It's filled with failure, rejection, sweat, sacrifice. And responsibility says, don't run from that, own it. Because if you can own the struggle, you can own the struggle, you can own the success. But if you run from the struggle with excuses, you'll always run from the reward too. Think about it like this. Excuses will get you sympathy, but responsibility will get you success. People might nod their heads when you complain, but that doesn't change your situation. Responsibility might not get applause right away, but it builds a foundation that will outlast everybody's opinion. You hit it. You don't need sympathy. You need strength. And responsibility is the only road that leads to it. At the end of the day, success belongs to the ones who claim responsibility over their lives. It doesn't matter where you started. It doesn't matter who doubted you. It doesn't matter how many times you failed. If you decide right now, this is on me. My growth is on me. My discipline is on me. My victory is on me, then nothing can stop you, because responsibility closes the door to excuses, and when excuses are gone, all that's left is action. And action will always lead you to winning.